Time for another double up, let's get to it. First up, the Gymnastic Samurai, a sports series about an aging gymnast. Jotaro, who is also known as Joe, is a well-known gymnast who never got a big win, but age is catching up to him and he's contemplating retirement. While trying to figure out how to tell his daughter, he meets a fan of his who convinces him to give it one more try and prove that he still has it. He then must overcome the newest prodigy as well as figure out why he wants to continue. So while it is a sports series, I don't think it's the strongest part of it. It's not bad. Mappa did their best to animate the performances. Yes, I know it isn't perfect, but you try to animate the detail and quick performances of gymnastics. But the series doesn't spend time to explain the sport or the pro scene. Basically, Joe just invents a super move and wins. The strongest part of this series is his characters. The series' major characters, Joe, his daughter Ray, and the new housemate Leo, are well fleshed out. Joe really reflects on why he wants to continue being a pro gymnast, even though he had a respectable career and nobody would fault him for retiring. Ray is written extremely well as a kid, and I love her relationship with her father, plus her arc on deciding what she wants to do when she grows up, while basic, is pretty good. As for Leo, the runaway ballet prodigy, he helps create the parallels to Joe and the rival's story. A prodigy being crushed by the pressure to meet the expectations of being a prodigy to always push the envelope, this causes him to hate the hobby that he once loved. This runs parallel to Joe's story of realizing he wants to continue because he loves gymnastics, as well as the rival who's a upcoming Japanese prodigy who people are expecting to help push Japan back into the global pro scene. Honestly, I would like to see more time spent on that angle, but I enjoy my time with the series, and I think it has a good change of pace from the typical 20-heavy scene of the usual sports series, sort of shining the light on the more human side of athletics. Oh, quick tidbits before we move on. If you have a valid issue with the Gangoro style, there's a minor character that dresses like that. She's fine, but I'm not touching that discourse in a short review series. So I'm just pointing it out, and you do what you want with that. Also, the gay doctor is played for laughs mostly. It's not really malicious, but just kind of another fault that I should probably point out. Now we move on to Talentless Nana. It's a mystery series about teens with superpowers, so watch it if you like mysteries. Like, that's all I can really say if you don't want me to get into spoilers. So, watch the first episode if you think it could interest you. Alright, if you're sticking around, that means you're ready for some spoilers, as I got some points to make. The twist is that the students that are on the deserted island, learning to master their abilities to fight the enemies of humanity, are in fact living a lie. The students think that these so-called enemies of humanity are monstrous alien-like figures with a mix of powers. However, we're told, or at least the main character is told, that these teens are in fact the real enemies of humanity, that superpower individuals almost brought humanity to extinction. Thus, she is tasked with figuring out how to systematically murder these would-be superheroes, using only her quick wit and power of deduction to stay one step ahead of them. This turns the series into a sort of a reverse murder mystery, essentially My Hero Academia meets Death Note. This includes its own version of L in the form of Hyoya, a literally immortal teen, leading to a game of cat and mouse as the two try to outsmart the other. This is of course complicated upon as Nana starts getting feelings, either platonic or romantic, for Michiru, whose only power is healing. This causes Nana to question her quest and whether she's in the wrong, as she can't figure out how Michiru would cause so much death. This is built upon further as Michiru helps her face past trauma, this trauma being what the big bad is exploiting to turn her into the jaded killing machine she currently is. But her job is made even harder as some of the students decide to get in on the game and start their own body counts. Now here's the issue. This story is trying to do an organic face turn on a serial killer, and that's a bit hard to say the least. That's not to say that you can't do a series where the protagonist is an evil person. Death Note and the first Bardock special are great examples of doing this. But a full face turn is a bit of a push, as even if you subtract the ones where they were trying to kill her and just call it self-defense, she has still killed some innocent classmates. Even if you use the excuse that she's been conditioned to do this, it's a hard sell. But I'm sure we Danganronpa fans can find it in our hearts to forgive her. We already did. We already did this once. The mind games also do require some suspicion of disbelief. Nana and Hyoya are the only two with any brains, and so the twists can differ in quality. I think at its best, the reveal is where you can put the pieces together and be like, oh, okay, I totally get it, that makes a lot of sense. The perfect example is her kill in The Time Traveler. On the opposite side, there are cases like The Necromancer where all the pieces are kind of obscure and kind of feel like a stretch. But I must admit that there is some quality about the series. Maybe I just found it novel, or the twists and turns help make me feel smart. But I marathoned this series really hard, and it may be worth checking out. It does leave off on quite a cliffhanger, so if it doesn't get a sequel, that'll be a problem. As there is some promise, but similar to Magia Record and Heaven's Official Blessing, it's sort of locked into being fine until a second season comes out. Especially for this series, as you can easily mess this one up.